Welcome, everybody. My name is Tom Eccleston. I am the Assistant Head of School for Enrollment Management at the Hill School. I am also a Hill alum, class of 1987, proud Hill parent. I've had two daughters recently graduate from the Hill School as well. And welcome to our second webinar of the admissions season. We're thrilled that you're joining us. And I know we have families and students from all over the country and the world tonight joining us. Our focus tonight will be on academics and college counseling, but please feel free to ask any questions that you have. And we've got a great panel of some faculty and students, our head of school, and a parent and alum as well. So I'm sure we'll be able to get all of your questions answered. We're just going to quickly start by having people introduce themselves. And then I will introduce our head of school, Zach Lehman, who will take the questions. And then please start submitting your questions in the Q&A section, and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. It's hard to get to all of them, but we can also get to them tomorrow after the webinar is over. So again, welcome, Tom Eccleston. I'll next have Ellen Dietrich introduce herself, and we'll go around the panel.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ellen Dietrich. I am the Director of College Counseling at the Hill School. This is my 6th year at the Hill, but my 31st as a counselor in independent schools.
Thank you, Ellen. And next, Katie Hudak.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I am Katie Hudak. I'm the Academic Dean. I've also been here at Hill for 6 years. I also teach English.
Thank you, Katie. And Jared next, please.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here with us tonight. My name is Jared Courtney. I'm the Dean of the Quadrivium Center, which is the school's STEM facility that puts me in charge of the STEM offerings, including science, engineering, math, and computer science. I'm also head coach of the girls crew team, and I teach in the science department.
Thank you, Jared. And next, Sarah, please. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Jiang. I'm a 4-year boarding student from Shanghai, China. I was born in Auckland, New Zealand, and in school, I am the co-president of the SGA, and I'm involved in the Student Philanthropy Council and numerous clubs.
Thank you, Sarah. Eddie, go ahead next, please.
Hello, I'm Eddie Profit. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This is my 2nd year here, and I'm a 6th former. I am a part of the squash team and the crew team, and I'm a prefect in my dorm.
Thank you, Eddie. And Adele, next, please.
Hi, I'm Adele Harris. I'm from Harrisburg, PA. I'm a 6th former. I'm captain of girls cross country and track teams, and I'm also part of the DEI Council.
Thank you, Adele. And then finally, Paul Fallmer. Paul, go ahead.
Hi, Paul Fallmer. I'm also an alumnus from the class of 1987, and I have a son who was graduated in the class of 2018, and a son who is a 5th former or 11th grader at the Hill School now. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Paul. And again, everybody, welcome to all the participants. Our number is getting up there. And again, this is our 2nd webinar of the admissions season. And we've got a great panel here, as you've seen. Again, our focus tonight will be on our academic program and college counseling. So hopefully you have lots of questions in those areas. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Lehman, Zach Lehman, who is our head of school. And maybe Zach can give a quick update on the school year so far, and then Zach will be handling all the questions and dispersing them to the panel. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening, everyone. I apologize. I have sort of a hoarse voice. We've just come off of our exciting Lawrenceville rivalry weekend, where we host a lot of alumni in our rival school from New Jersey. And I was cheering a lot, and it apparently worked pretty well because we did great this weekend. And I think our students would love to share a little bit of that experience. So I apologize if I sound a little hoarse right now, but in any event, we've had a great school year so far. We're thrilled that you're considering Hill for next year. We opened the school this year with record high enrollment, nearly 550 students. A lot of that has to do, I think, with how well the Hill School navigated the COVID pandemic last year. We were able to have nearly all of our students on campus with in-person instruction. All of our teachers were in person, and we were able to continue with a lot of our school traditions, as well as athletics and co-curricular activities and theater and that sort of thing, of course, in a modified way. But as a result, we've had a terrific boost in our enrollment. We're usually about 510, 515 So it's definitely action-packed here at the Hill this year. We are just finishing up our first trimester. We are a trimester-based school. And so our students are getting ready for exams next week and then the Thanksgiving holidays. And what we're really excited about is that we're heading into a new program at Hill, which we started last year called the H term. And I encourage you to ask some questions about that. It's basically an experiential program for 2.5 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas break. And our students can be on campus either taking sort of creative classes that our teachers are offering, or being off campus doing internships and other independent programs, or some combination thereof. It's very unique to our school. We're excited to offer that. And I'm sure the 3 students who are on the call today can talk about what they're planning for H term, as can some of our faculty members who are here. So we're thrilled to have you here tonight. The way we do this is we will take questions in 2 forms. So you can either type a question into the Q&A box, which is down at the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A, and you can type in a question. Nobody can see except for us, no one can see the name attached to that question. And we'll go through those as quickly as we can. The more exciting and fun way to ask a question is to raise your hand. And that's the little icon at the bottom center of your screen, probably. It says raise hand. And if you raise your hand, we can allow you to speak. And if you're really brave, we can allow you to be seen if you're happy with your Zoom background. So that's a great way to ask your question in person, and we can learn a little bit more about you as well. And we'll have some fun with that. So if you would like to go ahead and ask some questions and populate the Q&A box, we'll get to it. Usually we have so many questions, we can't get to all of them, but we'll do our best to sort of lump them together in sort of thematically. And if there are some questions that are just a pretty straightforward answer, Mr. Eccleston or I will type those questions into the Q&A box so you can see those answers as well. All right, are we ready? Students, are you ready? Faculty, are you ready? Here we go. All right. All right, so I have a first question in the Q&A box, and this one goes to you, Mr. Courtney. Hill has an integrated math curriculum. What math courses would a student take after finishing geometry in 8th grade?
So it's a good question, as I can see you're educated about our math system here. So we have our math classes that are called integrated math. The idea there is that rather than sectioning classes off into specific disciplines such as algebra 2 or geometry, rather teachers have created their own curriculum that touches on many different areas at all levels of math. So specifically, if a rising freshman or any other grade for that matter has completed geometry, they would opt into our sort of our 3rd tier or 4th tier, which is the higher 2 tiers of the math program. And then depending on sort of how that fits with them and how they progress, they would then quickly get on to calculus and post-calculus classes beyond that. So, so geometry is sort of a bit of a stepping stone. And if the student's already done geometry, they would step right into our 3rd and 4th, which is the upper 2 levels of the math program as soon as they arrive at the school. But once admitted, we do a very thoughtful job of looking at past teacher recommendations and past experiences in math specifically to make sure it's the right fit, and students do have the choice to move up or down as the school year begins.
Great. While we're on the subject of math, Mr. Courtney, someone says for a PG, what is offered in math after AP Calculus BC? I didn't think we'd start with 2 big math questions, but here we go.
Happy to talk math. Always happy to talk math. So yes, so we offer, so actually our math curriculum is unique in the sense that our BC Calculus course is actually just a half a year of BC Calc, followed by multivariate. And then beyond that, we offer 2 courses beyond that that are seminar style, so smaller sort of college level style that are taught in alternating years. So depending on what year it is, students would take 1 of 2 sort of post calculus seminars that are sort of taught in a college manner. So we have a lot of offerings at the very high level upper echelons of math beyond calculus.
And you can also take AP Stats if you'd like.
Correct, AP Stat as well.
Great. Okay, this is a question for the students. So after school ends and practices are over on Friday, can boarding students depart from campus? So we're going to modify that question because that's a pretty straightforward answer. Let's talk about weekends. What is there to do on the weekends at Hill, on and off campus? Let's start with you, Sarah John.
Yeah, I think it's so I actually room with someone who's very different from me. My roommate was a 3-year day student who lives like 10 minutes from campus, and I'm a 15-hour flight international student on campus. So for my roommate, she has the opportunity to go home on Fridays, whereas I on campus get to experience all the activities. I think the school, like Student Life Association and the teachers kind of do a really good job of managing activities on campus. So there's really no weekend that a student will feel either bored or overwhelmed or have nothing to do or have too much to do. Um, there's also flexibility with like off-campus activities, like going on hikes or going to restaurants, going to the mall, being immersed in the Potsdam community. And then it's all of these are also optional. So it's really helpful, especially for like a lot of sixth form students who have more opportunity to manage their own time, depending on like how their stress level is or whether or not they want to be doing work on a Saturday or going out to eat at a restaurant for dinner with their friends. There's a lot of flexibility with that. So I feel like weekends it's like there's an array of opportunities that really your kids who come to Hill will never be bored, but also they'll have the opportunity to choose what to do for themselves.
All right, excellent answer, Sarah. Speed round for everybody else. What is your favorite weekend activity? This is for students and for faculty members. Ready? Eddie, go.
Definitely bingo. The prizes are great, and it's a lot of fun.
Mrs. Hudak.
Having students over to my house for baking.
Very good. Adele.
I have to go with King of Prussia, which is the local mall or the outlets.
All right, shopping. All right. Jared.
Watching sports games and eating cookout food out in the far field. It's a great community and everyone comes out and all the faculty kids and all the students come out. It's a great time.
Mr. Eccleston, you've been here a long time and you're on duty on weekends. What's your favorite activity?
International Food Festival that we have. That's great. Lots of great food.
All right. Mrs. Dietrich.
Kind of along the same lines, the Food Truck Festival in Phoenixville is always my favorite.
All right. Mr. Fallmer, what was your favorite activity as a student?
Well, when I was at the Hill School, it was all boys. So my favorite activity was going to dances at the girls' schools where I met my wife. So
perfect. Well, that's a pretty good answer. I don't think any of us can top that. All right. Thanks for the great question. We have a hand raised. Are you guys ready for this? This is always fun. All right. Are you there?
Yeah, so I'm an 8th grader in DC, and I was just kind of wondering what was the college counseling like at Hill? What is like the support system for students and the resources given?
Awesome. Well, I know just the person that can answer that. We'll do it in 2 phases. I'll ask Mrs. Dietrich, who's the director of college counseling, to answer that. And after that, let's hear from Eddie about how his college counseling process has gone over the last 2 years and like what it entails.
Well, thank you for that question. Hill is very lucky in that we have 6 full-time college counselors for a class of usually around 150 or so students. So they get very individual attention. One of the ways that we are distinguished to get, from other boarding schools and schools that I've worked in is that we assign students to a college counselor in January of their 4th form year, which is the sophomore year, so that the college counselors can be involved in working with students on their course counseling and really look at not just what the junior year might look like, but also what the senior year might look like and what that might mean relative to the college process. So,
all right, Mrs. Dietrich just broke up, which is perfect timing for you, Eddie. How has your college process gone?
Could go all the way through till May 1st. Sorry?
We lost you for a second there, Ms. Dietrich.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
I don't know where you lost me, but so we assign in January of the sophomore year. We see you all the way through May 1st. It's very individual attention, and I know that Eddie is going to be able to speak to it much better than I will, so I'll turn it over to him.
Yeah, so like Mrs. Dietrich said, you're assigned the counselor and you're going to do one-on-one work with them, but also everybody's given a general course on college counseling and how to use this platform that we're familiar with called Scialfo. You put your activities, it helps you organize everything with the college process. And so everybody has that as a course their 5th form year. And that also helps inform you sort of, if you're not really thinking about it, sort of like what to have your mind on when you're selecting colleges and going through your junior year. And then this year, leading up to, college apps and all that, Mrs. Dietrich and I, she's actually my college counselor. And so we worked a lot one-on-one regarding like, my essay and different scholarship opportunities, different college choices that we might want to pursue. So it's definitely very individual, but then you also get a broad sense through the college course.
And I would just add that we also welcome about, in a non-COVID related year, we will welcome close to 125, 130 colleges that come to visit us in the fall. And this year we've had over 100, but some of those visits have been virtual just by nature of COVID.
Great. All right. Thank you. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Good luck. All right. We are going to go to a next hand up, which is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, are you there?
Hello, this is actually my mom's computer, but my name is Katie. I was wondering if one of the students could explain what a typical day looks like in terms of schedules, studies, activities, or extracurriculars.
Sure. Adele, why don't you take it away? Give her your day. What did you do today, Adele?
So first, I woke up, I showered, I went to breakfast, which runs from 7:30 to 8:40, and your first class starts at 8:25. And there's on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, there's 45-minute classes. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, there's 70-minute classes. So on Wednesdays, you're done by lunch and you have 3 classes. And then on Thursdays, you have 4.
And
So
then
that's
after your classes, what happens, Adele?
After class, you go to your extracurricular, whether that's theater, sports practices, or afternoon arts. And yeah, you finish your day with dinner and then study hall at night.
What study hall? We put all 550 students in one room and make them study?
So each student can either work in their room or go to the library to get work done. And study hall runs from 7:30 to 9:30.
There's a few other places they can go during study hall, right? They can go to the Quadrivium Center, to the Warner Center, get extra help, student center, that sort of thing.
Yes.
All right. How does that day sound? Is that busier than your day?
Possibly. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for your question. Great job. All right. I have a follow-up question for you, Mr. Courtney. The question is, what kind of specific projects are done in the Shirley Quadrivium Center?
It's a good question. And the facility itself is quite exciting in the sense that it's got a lot of flexible spaces that allow for a lot of unique and creative offerings to happen there. So programmatically, what we've begun to develop is a program called the Quadrivian Scholars Program. Now, this is the first year that's existed, but the idea of that course is to connect juniors and seniors, forms 5 and 6, with external researchers in either math or science or engineering who would supervise an independent study with them along with a Hill faculty member, such that the student might end up getting published in a journal, participating in science competitions, and ultimately presenting a poster by the time they graduate high school, which is indeed a pretty unique experience. In addition to that, we've developed a robotics team that practices competitively for winter and spring seasons. And we also have allowed for a lot of sort of student project-based work to occur in the flexible spaces that exist around the building as well. Post-COVID, so as we were sort of emerging from COVID restrictions, the vision for the building is really to become sort of a beacon of STEM in the area, and really to begin to welcome alumni who are in the science and math and technology fields, in addition to other speakers that might be connected with Hill faculty, to come and engage students in meaningful discussions, to allow for students to sort of learn about what professional STEM work involves.
Awesome. All right, Adele, the next question is for you. Is it possible for students to both play a sport and participate in theater or other arts?
So for arts, there's studio art classes during the day. There's woodworking, there's theater classes as well, and there's dance classes. I take the dance class during the day, and then in the afternoon I do cross country and track, as I mentioned before. So there's a lot of flexibility, so you can be involved in both arts and athletics.
And we can actually, you can do arts during the day or in the afternoon. And you can only play sports in the afternoon, unless you have a free period. Eddie, do you or Sarah do sports and theater, sports and arts? Sarah?
Yeah, I actually took if you're interested in like visual arts, I took studio art 4 AP last year. So, and I'm in afternoon arts I was in afternoon arts in the fall as my afternoon activity, and then now I'm doing a sport. So there's actually not only flexibility for like you to be involved in all sorts of things across campus, you can also do it like pretty rigorously. So whether or not you want to take an AP or get it graded, there's like a lot of choice for that.
And Mr. Courtney, there was a follow-up question about your comments. Can you be in the robotics program and still compete in winter sports?
We are still figuring that out. As of now, the answer to that is no, but we're still developing our robotics team, and that we may be modifying that slightly in the future. Robotics will probably be both a winter and a spring offering. So if a student's really curious to participate in winter sport, they could elect to participate in just spring robotics instead.
All right, speed round question for everybody. This comes online question. What is a big tradition at the Hill? So what is your favorite tradition at the Hill? Say what it is, and then in one sentence or less, what is it? Especially if it's confusing. Ready? Mr. Fallmer, you get to go first. What is your favorite Hill tradition?
I think the tradition of the seated meals in the dining hall is really important and a huge part of our culture, and a big part of differentiator of what makes the Hill School the family boarding school, and it brings some really important life skills. That wasn't one sentence, sorry.
That's okay. So just in case anyone doesn't know, we every day for lunch, our entire community sits down together for seated meals. Seated meal in the dining hall. We can fit everyone in that one room, and it's a pretty extraordinary experience. All right, by the way, you can't repeat what someone else said. You all knew that was going to be part of the rules. All right, Mrs. Hudak, you're next, on my screen anyway.
This might be the recency effect for me, but I think my favorite tradition is on Elville weekend that all the students attend all of the athletic competitions en masse, and they all wear their blazers, usually navy blazers. The sixth formers wear their sixth form blazers, often over their athletic uniforms, or the athletic uniform on top and jeans on the bottom. It sounds like it wouldn't be a look, but it is totally a look. And they just have a ball running around in those, and I just felt so proud this weekend watching them cheer on their classmates. It's a great tradition. Sorry, more than one sentence.
For the record, Elville is short for Lawrenceville, and the athletes don't wear their blazers over their uniforms while playing. All right, good job. Eddie Prophet. I just have to say your full name every time, Eddie. It's got to be Eddie Prophet.
There is a tradition of not stepping on the seal, the Hill School seal, in the center of it's dubbed the seal patio. And I thought this was really funny, especially this weekend when we had a dance in that space. And even though there were, a bunch of people all milling around, there was still nobody on the seal. So there was a noticeable hole in the crowd. And so that's always, a good one.
So the mosh pit avoided the seal. That's pretty impressive. All right. Well, I know where I'm going to chaperone the next dance from. All right. Mr. Courtney, favorite Hill tradition?
Seated chapel. The idea of collecting the entire Hill community twice a week to listen to students and teachers share their thoughts in a very meaningful, thoughtful space is a great way to connect the community with people that you may not know otherwise.
Mr. Eccleston.
Our dress code. We have a traditional dress code, and it is a tradition at Hill, and coat and tie for the boys, and jackets and dresses and slacks for the girls. And it's been a long standing dress code at Hill. And I think our kids feel it adds to the uniqueness of Hill's culture. And I love that.
All right, Adele.
All of the ones that I was gonna say were taken, so I have to go with spirit weeks we have, whether it's leading up to Elville or the ones we do later in the spring term. I think they're just really fun because everyone gets really into it, and there's a lot of energy and school pride.
Very good. You could have gone with Halloween. I know you like that one. All right, Sarah, what do you got?
I like advisory just in general, especially like when we go to our advisors' houses. Me personally, I've had mine for 4 years, so I watch him from being engaged to having 2 kids now. So it's a big like family aspect to it, which I love.
All right, well, we'll come back to what advisories are in a little bit, but that's a good teaser. Mrs. Dietrich.
I love that I'm last, because my one would be sort of the last thing you do as you graduate, which is jump into the Dell, where all of our
That was going to be mine.
Oh, well, you took Halloween. I was going to say that. So jumping into the Dell when the sixth formers have just graduated and they change into their t-shirts, class t-shirts, and they all jump into the Dell, the pond on campus as a class.
All right, well, mine is going to be, we haven't done it yet this year, but it will happen all spring long, which is faculty coffee or faculty tea, which is after our seated dinner on Tuesday nights. The entire sixth form class goes out into the class of 1971 garden, which is right off of our dining hall, has been beautifully restored. And they have coffee and tea with the faculty. And it's a special privilege that the sixth formers earn by the time they graduate. And it's a wonderful way to connect with faculty and with classmates, and usually on a beautiful spring day. And the new garden is pretty special, so it'll be a great spot for that this spring. All right, that was a slow speed round. We can do better next time. All right, Tashima has her hand up, or his hand up. Let's see, Tashima, are you there? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Cobb. I'm on my mom's computer.
That's generally the theme tonight. Okay.
I just want to ask, what's the experience like transferring from a public school system to the Hill School?
Okay. Adele, does that apply to you? No. I don't think any of our students transferred, the students on the call.
I can take
Mr.
that.
Eccleston, you want to take that question?
Sure, that's a common question that we get, and this is a familiar name, Helliger. So welcome to the podcast, to the webcast. But yeah, I mean, a lot of our applicants are obviously coming from public schools, and I do think the transition, I think there's a few ways that the Hill helps with that. We do have a third form orientation for all of our students and study skills for our third formers. The study hall at night that we have for our students, that is from 7:30 to 9:30, is a great way to budget your time as you enter the Hill. I do think one big change is typically the workload, the volume of work. But again, between having pretty much all of the faculty on campus, a very close relationship with your advisor, you have a lot of adult support in this community, and our teachers every night of the week are giving extra help. So as I've always said about our academic program, as challenging as Hill can be, it is an equally supportive place in terms of the academic support. And I think that's very unique in the boarding school world. So it can be a tough transition at first, but I think that the overall support network at Hill definitely eases that transition for new students, no matter where they're coming from.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for the question. All right, this one's for you, Mrs. Hudak. Sort of two questions I'm going to combine together about PG years. What does a typical PG year schedule look like? And there was another part of that, which was what classes are required for PG year. For those of you who don't know, the Hill School offers a postgraduate year, nicknamed a PG year, for students who have graduated from high school and want to do one more year of college prep school. So take it away, Mrs. Hudak.
Thank you. Yeah, so our postgraduate, I'm not sure there's a sort of a typical postgraduate schedule. There are scheduling, especially for the sixth form, 1 year sixth formers and PGs are highly individualized. But I guess they would need to take an English, a math. Most would elect to take probably a science, a history. There are a range of other classes they could choose to take if they wanted to continue a world language that they'd been pursuing, or perhaps start a new one. We have some PGs who start our courses like Chinese or Arabic for their PG year if they want to try something new. So they'd work closely with my colleague Bo Kim, who's the Director of Studies and Instruction, and come up with a schedule that works really well for them based on, what their original high school transcript looked like and what their interests are.
If I can chime in, Mr. Lehman, I think we get this question obviously often when we're interviewing postgraduate applicants, and the expression I use is that, we don't put the postgraduates on their own island. And I think that's something that, they're very much part of the sixth form and of the typical curriculum, as Mrs. Hudak just said. And, the PG curriculum varies depending upon the background of each student, but they're fully integrated into our community in terms of advising and dorm life. So that's been our philosophy with our postgraduates is again, to fully integrate them into the sixth form. So they truly blend in and get started right away, and then meeting with the college counseling office in the first few weeks of school as well.
Great. Next question. I'm going to send this one to you, Eddie. How do you support students who join the community as an 11th grader, what we call a fifth form? Since that was you about a year ago, walk us through it, Eddie. What's it like joining the school as an 11th grader?
Right. So yeah, I came in last year in like the heat of COVID. So it was definitely like a difficult transition for me, especially I had been at my old school for my entire life. So this was like a huge, like switch. And so I think one of the biggest things is just the community at the Hill. I remember last year I was 100% like supported by all my dorm mates. I had my prefects. Sometimes when I didn't feel comfortable reaching out to like an adult or something, just because that felt, I don't know, like I didn't know what I was doing. It was a lot easier to reach out to a fellow student. And I had friends on the various teams who, I remember I actually got injured that year, and so I was on crutches, and I remember them, slowing down noticeably just to, come back and walk at my pace. And so I think that the community is a really strong way for like new students to feel integrated right away. And I can speak to that this year because now I am one of those prefects. And from the other side, we have multiple new students on my own dorm. And I feel like we've all sort of meshed into this one group and included them in the same way that I felt that last year. So I think it's definitely, helpful for that. But also, of course, there's other ways, through the adults and the administration, there's a lot of support.
Eddie's being a little modest. I think within an hour of being on campus, Eddie, you were pretty much fitting in, as I recall, but we'll revisit that again. All right, Mr. Fallmer, a parent question. What is good about Hill that made you send your kids to the Hill, other than the fact that you went here yourself?
Yeah, so I'm very clear about one thing with that, and that is that we made the Hill School an option, or boarding school an option, for both of our sons. And it was really important to both my wife and me that it be their decision that they want to go there, not that they felt as if we were sending them away. I'll start with saying the answer to that question is the Hill School just fundamentally changed my life. I grew up in central Pennsylvania in a very good public school district, but I was looking for more. I was yearning for more, and was fortunate enough to be admitted and able to go there for 4 years. And it just fundamentally changed my life. And so it's been a very important place for my family. I said my wife and I met there. We actually met in the chapel when we were both singing in our respective glee clubs. We eventually got married in that same chapel. And I will say that for our boys, both the faculty members that know them, including Mr. Lehman and Mr. Eccleston, can attest that they're very different young men. And it was incredible for my older son. He is very fond of the Hill School. His best friends are from the Hill School, as are mine. And our younger son, who's a very different person, is just thriving at the school. He's engaged, he's challenged, and he can't wait to go back. When my older son's home from college, he goes back to see faculty members and meets friends back on campus. So
He usually shows up in my basement.
he does occasionally do that. Yes, he does.
Not to see me, to see my son.
No, it's been, I don't know if that answers your question, and I'm happy to answer any other question about it, but for our family, it's just been a really important thing. It meets our needs culturally and educationally, and so I couldn't be happier about it.
All right. Mr. Eccleston, can you talk a little bit about the size of the incoming third form, fourth form, and fifth form new students?
Yep. So we typically will, and we get this question asked often each year, but typically we will look to enroll about 100 new third formers. Well, they're all new because they're third formers. And then in terms of the upper forms, we will look to enroll about 25 new fourth formers, which is 10th grade every year. And that's split evenly between boys and girls. And then for fifth form, it's about 12. I typically say about 12 to 14 new fifth formers each year. And as we've already talked about the postgraduates, we will typically add, anywhere around 15 or 16 new postgraduates each year. So starting out at about 100 in the third form, we will typically graduate a class at around 150 students.
Great. All right. Here's the question we were waiting for about the H term. All right. There's a couple questions here, but generally there's a question about some more detail about the H term program. So let's do that by Eddie, Sarah, and Adele in that order, telling us their plans for the H term. What courses are you taking or hoping to take, or independent studies, and what else are you doing during that time?
Yeah, so for H term, I'll be on campus. So first of all, I'm going to be doing, I believe, a financial literacy course. So, sort of basics of finance and I think learning how to invest and, basics of that kind of stuff, as well as I think it's neuroscience in film. So we're going to be analyzing some interesting stuff with, movies and sort of looking into the psychology.
I think it's actually physics in film, Eddie.
Oh, no, there's
two?
one.
There's two?
Yeah.
Ah, cool. I thought it was just Mr. Steinman's class.
Yeah. But then, so also I'm going to be on campus playing squash. So we have a few matches scheduled, I believe. And I'm also going to try and see if we can find a way to play some tournaments. That's something that we actually had the privilege of doing a few weeks ago. Me and a couple other guys on the squash team organized a trip to go to Philadelphia and play. And so, yeah, that'll be my H term goals.
All right, Sarah, your H term.
Yeah, so I'll be off campus for H term, and I'm doing an independent study. It's called the Chemistry and Design of Lab Diamonds. So I will be going to a lot of factories to discover the process and the chemistry behind, and the ethics and the design behind lab diamonds is kind of catered towards what I want to study in college. So I will be spending my H term doing that.
And where will you be doing that, Sarah?
In Shanghai. I'll be going home.
That's awesome. So one of the great things about the H term is that since it goes between the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday, is that especially for our international students who are still subject to some travel restrictions or quarantine, they can actually go home right before Thanksgiving, complete their quarantine, and still have a solid 3 or 4 weeks at home to do their internship and see their families. So it was a sort of a silver lining of the H term timing, and a lot of our students otherwise wouldn't have been able to go home at all during the school year. So I'm so glad you're doing that, Sarah. And that sounds like an awesome project. All right, Adele, what's up for you?
I will be taking a recipes for life class. We'll be cooking a bunch of different dishes, and then I'll also be helping in the admissions office, giving tours, and yeah, and then we'll also be competing for track. So it'll be a fun H term.
Mr. Courtney, do you want to fill in any of the details about the overall program beyond what I shared?
Certainly. So as you've already heard a bit about, this is a 2.5-week offering that happens in December. In this case, it's really meant to allow for students to have a really thoughtful set of experiential coursework or experiences, as you heard about, of authentic learning by way of internships. So if the student elects to enroll in classes on campus, there are a series of themes that teachers design courses around. So teachers had actually my wife, Dr. Courtney, is a PhD in neuroscience, is the one teaching about memory in the movies. So she designs this course about, as Eddie said, about how Hollywood depicts neuroscience. But there are themes related to sustainability, beyond the classroom, sense of place, which is just a hill or Pottstown specifically. And students could elect to take any number of courses within those themes. Alternately, kids could pursue an idea of an internship or an independent study that will be supervised by a Hill faculty member. So students will retain contact with the Hill teacher in some way and have to end up sort of reporting and producing a final project of some sort that sort of summarizes their work that takes place over those 2.5 weeks. Sometimes, as is the case with Sarah, and I happen to teach Sarah in AP Chem, so I'm excited to hear about her chemistry experiments or experimentation and study there. They'll be doing that from home, and then they might have found their own mentor who might be supervising that, or students might be doing an independent study on campus. So they might be enrolled in one course and be doing independent study on campus. So it's design flexibility, something I said before about the Quadrivium as well, the idea of allowing students to sort of take a bit of a break from traditional class coursework and instead explore a passion and perhaps shape what they'll take in the future at Hill and beyond.
Great. Mrs. Hudak, can you talk about Humanities 3 and Humanities 4? How are they different from regular English courses?
It's a really common question. They are probably more alike than they are different, those two sets of courses. They both, build on the foundational English skills that get developed in our 3rd and 4th form English classes. The difference with Humanities is that they take a little broader lens about sort of what goes into literature. So the humanities side will bring in things like art, architecture, music, and all those things that influence the production of literature in a contextual way, and take a deep dive into those things. Whereas in the other English classes, those things are mentioned, but maybe not delved into in quite the same way.
All right, you guys ready for a speed round? This is for everybody. What is your favorite course and why? For the faculty members and Mr. Fallmer, you can answer either for yourself if you took a class at Hill, or for one of your children if they took a class at Hill, or a class that you teach. So what is your favorite course and why? Try to keep it to one sentence. Are we ready? Mr. Eccleston, you go first.
All right, I'll take economics AP with Mr. Baum. That comes from both of my children.
All right, and why?
They loved how, it's a unique class at Hill. We have, it's large, it's 50 students, so it's sort of a college approach. And they love the experiential part of it too. And, going to meet with Hill alums on Wall Street and just being a very interactive class.
All right, Adele.
My favorite is English for Literature and Religion. It's a mix of reading books, analyzing them, and then relating them to the different religions we're learning about. It's very interesting.
And it doubles as both your English requirement and your religious studies requirement.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Mrs. Hudak, favorite class?
I have to say my English 1 class. I teach 3rd formers every year. This year I have 2 groups. I love teaching 3rd formers. I love the foundational aspects. I love watching them grow and blossom. I love having them at my table every day.
All right, Sarah.
I'll have to say chemistry and orchestra because Mr. Courtney teaches me chemistry, and orchestra because I have to bash my drum kit every day, which is lots of fun.
All right, Mrs. Dietrich, favorite class?
Well, I feel like I have to go with the college seminar class, but I'm actually going to go with the entrepreneurship business class because I think it gives our kids an introduction to some real world experience that is very applicable and usable and makes a difference.
And a hugely popular class. It's grown from just a handful of kids now to 2 sections, I think with 18 or 17 kids in each. So Ms. Fisher does a great job with that class. All right, Mr. Fallmer, your class or one of your kids' classes, favorite class?
Well, my older son's favorite class was robotics. My favorite class I don't know what my younger son's favorite class is because he doesn't tell me anything. But my favorite class was a religion and philosophy class that I took from Dr. Regal, whose son is now a teacher at the school.
All right, Eddie Prophet.
Definitely history seminar. It's a college level discussion based course. So we've read a lot of really interesting books and we discuss them in class. And I, really like history. So that's my, I really like that style of learning.
All right, Mr. Courtney.
Like being asked to name your favorite child. I feel like I'm portraying, I love all my courses, of course, but Quadrivium scholars, I think. I think it's a really fun course to teach this year. What better way to sort of connect kids with what they'll be doing beyond the walls of a classroom than having them speak directly with a professional scientist, which we do twice a week. So it's a really fun class to teach.
Yeah, and so I get to answer this one too. I would say it's a tie for me between engineering, which is a unique program here at the Hill, a 4-year program. Progressive program, as well as intensive program that starts in the 11th grade, if you want to do it that way. And then my class, I'm teaching this year. None of these students signed up for my class, though. I'm teaching filmmaking and visual storytelling, which is going to be the best class. Next year, everyone will answer that class, right? Maybe, maybe not. All right, Tiffany has her hand up. Good job on the speed round, everyone. Tiffany, are you there?
Hi, sorry, I'm a little late, but I actually have 2 questions and I don't know if they've already been answered.
Tiffany, slow down. Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Massachusetts.
All right, where in Massachusetts?
I'm from Newton and Winchester.
Winchester. Are you a Patriots fan?
If I say yes.
You have 3 very rabid Patriots fans on this call at least, so including me.
Okay, great. That's great to hear. So my question is can you describe the typical day as a student athlete at Hill? Like, how does that differ from a typical non-student athlete? And what is the athlete and student balance like? And again, I'm applying as a repeat junior from Massachusetts for the 2022 admission cycle. So how many kids typically repeat, and what advice would you give to people who are in my shoes?
It's at least 13 questions, but we'll take a few of them for you. Eddie, we've already walked through the overall academic day, but can you talk a little bit about the athletic afternoons, weekends, and just the overall balance between being a student athlete here?
Yeah, so it definitely kind of depends on on which sport you're interested in. But for me, crew last spring was definitely a larger time commitment, because we're going to the water in nearby Royersford. So that's I don't know, I guess a 20-minute bus ride out and back. We'd stay on the water for a while. And then on the weekends, we go to regattas that are all day long. So that one was definitely a lot harder to balance, but it was a good challenge. And then, but then there's also, for squash or actually, one that's more interesting is the strength and conditioning class. So if you're a varsity athlete, you're allowed to take a strength and conditioning as your sports credit after school, which basically you're in the weight room, you're doing sport specific training, different agility and speed things. And that takes the same block as your co-curricular. And I would say that while a lot of times you do have a lot more to balance compared to people who don't have to, who aren't in season, it's definitely doable, especially because you have that block of time at the end of the day in study hall to get your work done. So I hope that answered your question.
And Mr. Eccleston, can you talk a little bit about the reclassifying or repeating a school year and about approximately how many students do that?
Yeah, I don't have the exact stats. I typically answer with, I would guess about 20 to 25%, I think, of our students have probably repeated or reclassified a year at some point. That might be a little high, but probably about 20%. It's a very common thing at boarding schools. And, the best thing about repeating a year at boarding school is that, for the most part, you don't have to repeat any of your classes, and you can keep moving forward in your curriculum and really build a super strong transcript as you're looking towards the college process. So, again, it's a pretty common thing at Hill. I always mention that, it's not, I think sometimes students are worried that it might be socially unacceptable, but it's not at all, because I know that's a question that we get. And it's a very common thing, again, for a number of our new students to do it, but also just understanding the strengths of it, and our students that are here that have been at Hill for a number of years don't think anything of it either. And welcome, especially our older applicants and our older new students to the school, and enriching our community from their past experiences at their old school.
Tiffany, let me guess, you were late because you were running from home from practice.
Yeah, you would be correct. And thank you for answering my question.
What's your sport, Tiffany?
I play lacrosse and I also swim.
All right. So were you swimming tonight or playing lacrosse?
I was actually doing wall ball, so yes, lacrosse.
All right. Good job. Thanks for the question, Tiffany. All right. Mr. Fallmer, we have a great question here. And we'll ask you, and then we'll sort of share it with one of the students as well. As a parent, could you describe your relationship and interaction with your son's advisor, teachers, or coaches?
That is a great question. And I have a couple of specific examples where that is applied. And I don't want to out either one of my children with these things, but look, young people go through challenges, and the Hill is the students are very, very busy. There's a lot of activities going on. The coursework is hard, and they're away from home, and we've had one child who was very homesick, whose advisor took him for off campus for ice cream, just to give him a little bit of time and breathing room. We have had a teacher that spent time with one of our sons one-on-one for several weeks because he just couldn't get his mind around a particular math situation. And the teacher was very, very accommodating and said, look, some people have trouble with this. We're going to get it fixed. It's not a problem. Come to my, come to my apartment and on a regular basis, and we'll figure it out. My wife interacts regularly with, as do I, with our son's advisor. And, we have her cell phone number, look, young people in this environment or any environment are growing up, and they're being pushed, and they are learning new things. And I think it's one of the differentiators as one does the tour of the boarding schools. These places can be real pressure cookers or real crucibles. And I personally want my children's academics and athletics and other social lives to be pushed and to be expanded, but there has to be a certain humanity to it, and I feel pretty strongly that is a differentiator of the Hill School that's very clear in the culture when one comes on campus and what one experiences as a parent.
Thank you, Paul. Sarah, can you just talk? You mentioned it earlier, but can you just talk about your relationship with your advisor or your teachers or your coaches, and how that works for you?
I think one of my favorite things at the Hill School is like the teachers and the students have a very family-like connection. I feel like that speaks a lot, especially coming from a culture where there's a distinct separation between like elders or like teachers and students. Coming here was it was just really warming to be able to see like my lacrosse coach give me a hug when I had a big achievement, or me crying to my advisor when I was under stress, and then he'd like let me walk his dogs or babysit his children. It extends beyond just the classroom, and then when you graduate, you like forget that these adults were once your teachers, and it feels like you're like almost leaving your second family. It's as hard to say goodbye. I feel like when I jump into Dell, it'll be as hard to say goodbye to a lot of my teachers and my advisor as it is to like say goodbye to my mom and dad when I leave home to come to Hill School.
Well, we can't end on a better answer than that, Sarah. So I'm just going to turn it over to Mr. Eccleston, who will wrap up a little bit on the admissions process, and then I'll say a final goodbye.
Thank you, Zach. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We do want to be mindful of your time. It's been about an hour, and also our students have to, with exams coming up next week, have to get back to study hall. I just wanted to quickly review the admissions process. So now that we're into November, just a reminder that our application deadline is January 31st. And please remember that, you need to submit an application, English and math teacher recommendation, a counselor rec. We are requiring testing this year at the Hill School. So that would either be an SSAT as a younger applicant or a PSAT, SAT, or ACT as an older applicant. And obviously your on-campus interview. We are also conducting a number of Zoom interviews. So please be sure, if you have not signed up for an interview, that should be your next step. Please register online on the website. There is an admissions page to the website where you can do that online and sign up for an interview. And we'll be conducting interviews through next week. We'll take a little break for Thanksgiving and then come right back in December and January, leading up until our January 31st deadline. Also, a reminder that the financial aid deadline is January 15th if you will be submitting financial aid application. So your tour, your visit, one last thing, if you do visit campus, we are wide open this year for campus visits because some boarding schools are not doing that, but we are conducting in-person interviews, and you will also be toured by a student or two around campus, and your campus visit will last about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. So we hope to see you soon if you have not been to campus or we have not met you through a Zoom interview.
Great. Well, there are a number of remaining questions and we're not going to get to them, but the topics are around mental health and counseling support, culturally diverse and DEI programs, and campus life and community service. All I can say, and I think the students here would join me in big head nods, is that the Hill School does a great job on all of those fronts, ranging from an incredible counseling program to terrific DEI programs and opportunities for leadership in that area, a very strong community service program, both for all students and also as an afternoon option. And then overall campus life is strong, as we've heard tonight throughout. There was also a couple questions about day student life. We didn't have any day students on the panel, but I can tell you that there's very little distinction between our day students and our boarders, except for where they sleep at night. So maybe we'll get to some of those questions on our next call. And maybe we'll bring on some faculty members who can address some of those questions, or students that can address those as well. I want to thank you for making time for us tonight. This is always a highlight of my week when we do one of these things, because I get to hear the excitement in our prospective students, and I get to learn from our current students and faculty about what makes this place so special. We do hope that you'll continue through the admission process at Hill. I promise you won't regret it. And we'll look forward to seeing you down the road. So thanks for joining us again. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to admission@thehill.org and check out our website and social media. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody.